So the holidays, it's a time for connection, for us to have gratitude and try to convince your crews that karaoke night isn't the worst idea you've ever had. Let's talk about how we're going to engage our people, how you want to get to know them, and maybe make sure that they're not throwing tinsel at you.
Welcome to another episode of the EMS Wizard podcast. In this episode, I have a bunch of clowns with me. Yes, they're still clowns. They have not changed. Oh, and guess who's back? John Christopher. He's been
Who's
back
that?
to join us. Mark, we're not alone anymore.
Was
Yeah,
John Christopher has come back.
I'm just
For
glad
a
to
while,
see
the
him again.
Secret Service wasn't allowing him within 500
I
feet of the
know.
microphone.
I
It's
know.
probably because of a restraining order, not
Wilson
as a
Sheehy. I
protective order.
know. I know exactly. In this episode, we're going to talk about out of the box ways to be able to engage with employees. I think Terry got that from one of our surveys that came back. Terry,
That
you
is
want to start us
correct.
out?
Not really, but I will, Walter. So thank you very much for starting me out on this episode. And I think it's the holiday season. Well, I don't think I know it's the holiday season. And so that, yeah, you got a big old turkey behind you and three others on the
he's got a
screen.
big old turkey
And
behind.
I do.
he does. He did. Gobble,
Tom
gobble,
Turkey.
gobble.
That's Tom Turkey.
Leave the turkeys
Oh,
behind.
that is Tom the turkey.
It was Tom
Yeah.
Turkey.
And so it makes me say, hey, it's the holiday season. What do you do? What do you do if you get invited to maybe an employee is having a Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas or New Year's? That's trouble right there. New Year's Eve celebration or whatever it is. How do we engage with our employees during this holiday season? Because we like to talk about how we are a family. So how do we engage as that family and not be that weird uncle at Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner? How do we engage and in that role that we have maybe as EMS officers? John?
What?
Terry, I was
He
going to say,
wasn't listening.
with alcohol or without alcohol?
Mm.
That's probably one of the first questions is and I
Just
jokingly talk
saying.
about this. Yeah, I jokingly talk about this in teaching EMS Officer One classes that if you invite me to your wedding, I'm gonna show up to your wedding and I'm gonna give you $100 in a card because I figure that's at least what you paid for dinner for Mrs. Sheehy and I. And the statement that I make is that I am once the shots, because no great story begins with, and we did shots and then we discovered the cure for cancer or we saved baby Jessica out of the well. It's we did shots and then this
What was it?
silly foolish thing happened. I tell people I stay for one round of drinks, little goose for Mrs. Sheehy. You know the rest of the song, maybe you don't. So no.
Oh, no clue.
I think it's
Mm.
probably different. I'll tell you, um, it may be different depending on the level that you may be inside of an EMS organization. It's
Okay.
definitely different, I think, when you get into like a community college setting that, um,
Mm.
Walter's been in, I've been in, and so it's probably I've just seen the difference in how one can do things. Well, you don't have a call interrupting you in sort of an administrative role, right? So if you're surrounded by administrative people, or let's just take my world, if I'm in a community college and my employees around me are, you pretty much don't have that interruption versus, you're at work and you can do stuff versus being outside of work doing things. I mean, I think there's layers to each one of those. Are we talking about in work celebrations, out of work celebrations, um, chain of command, people involved? Is there a certain level like FTOs versus a supervisor versus the office administrative training officer, operations chiefs and stuff. I think all of that has a different layer that goes across. I will say I have seen chiefs that were absolutely opposed to doing it. It was probably right for their organization. And I have been around chiefs that were not opposed to it and did it, and it seemed to cause no problems at all. So maybe it's who you are. Does that make sense? I don't know.
The answer is like a lot of things we discuss. It depends, right? It depends
think
on
so.
so many different things.
And those
It's
are some.
clear. It's always clear as mud.
Hmm.
So if Terry says if he gets invited to a wedding, he's going to go. And here's my thing. Here's my thing. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't go, but here's the things that go through my mind if I get a phone call from Terry and he's like, "Hey man, I've been invited to a wedding. Do you think I should go?" And that is, are you going to go to every wedding that you're ever invited to? And are you prepared to explain why you're not going to go to this particular person's wedding when you're not able to go to that one? Um, and it could be, hey, I'll tell you how it come up. We have people that don't necessarily celebrate the holidays the same way. Christmas versus it's just a holiday season or it's just a vacation season or whatever. And there's been situations where you're in where it's not a Christmas party. We need to have a holiday party. And if I don't celebrate those holidays, are you going to come celebrate with me and something that I do celebrate? And what if those things are not necessarily things that you agree with? And I think that leads you down the road to say, I just say no to every one of them. I just say no in those cases. Or do you develop a relationship? And this is now I'm getting to the community college world where I feel like I have always had really good relationships with the people that I worked around to where they were more friends and family like that. I'd feel just as comfortable going to their house as I would be sitting in the office.
Which
So
there's some irony in that. I feel that family atmosphere at the community college. Some people would say just a community college, but here I am in the EMS agency, and if it's Walter and I on a truck, man, for 24 hours, that's my partner in the truck, and in good times and in bad times. That's my family that I'm sharing those really great moments. I'm sharing those low moments with. And so that's, I don't know,
do
it's
you
just
have to do
interesting
parties to be engaging? Is there not other ways? I mean, we talk
But
about
you know,
well, I don't know.
I think you
but
got to at least break
Go ahead,
bread
Walter.
at some point.
I think it's even, and Terry brought a good point right there. You're on the same truck, you're on the truck with the person, or you're on shift with the person for 24 hours. You see them more than you see your family at home sometimes. So, I mean, hurricane hits, they got a bunch of trees down, and y'all all get together because Terry's three trees are down in his yard, and we all get together and go say, "Hey, we're gonna go to Terry's today and help him clean up because he don't have anybody to help him clean up." So three or four of us guys and gals, go around there and help him clean up. We're still all work together. We're still engaging. It's not a dinner. We might gonna have lunch together to be able to have that, but there you go with that engagement. You're still working with those people that you know and are with, and your family, outside extended family, to have that. I sometimes I think that's very hard to, and I'm going to say for a smaller county and for a smaller agency, that's hard to do because you may have some of those people that you interact with that may even you went to school with, went to college with, went to church with, played outside in the yard with all your life. And now you're working, and I'm supposed to say, can't do that anymore. I think that's hard. I think that's real hard.
Well, and then one of the things you said, I think that may be just a little different is you're talking about an event that takes place, going and kind of collaborating together and going to help to do something versus a planned party on a certain date to all come together for a purpose that isn't necessarily work related, right? If I'm going to clean up, trees in Terry's yard or whatever, then, it's sort of a task driven thing. And we all have a similarity of work. But if it's a situation, let's go meet at a local steakhouse somewhere, I think
Uh,
you come there with maybe a different mentality.
all right, holiday
So
season. Terry, hold on, Terry. Holiday season, same thing.
Right.
Holiday season, my whole shift decides to go eat at Texas Roadhouse.
Right.
And we're
mm,
all going to Texas Roadhouse. All 20 of us are going to go eat at Texas Roadhouse tonight
You're going to
because
wait
we're going to
3
have a
hours
we're going to
and
have a
wait for the
shift
decision.
after hours and bring your family and come on, let's go. It's 10 people on the shift and bring your wives and husbands and your, you know, partners, whatever you have, and come on, let's go. So that's a planned thing, but you're doing it as a whole shift together with that. Go ahead, Terry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I heard people call it choir practice when they do that. This is the thing is I hear some people say, well, I don't, let me take it from so we're arguing the one side of the coin. Let me give you the other side of the coin. And I hear people say, I can't go to John's party, or I can't go to Walter's. I can't go to Mark's. I can't go to Kathia, who's not with us. I can't go to their party
but
because,
not
well,
dead.
then people might think, yeah, but to be clear, she's
Our,
not dead.
our other guest is missing.
Yes. People might think, oh, well, Terry's going to give John preferential treatment. Terry's going to give Walter or Mark preferential treatment. And I think sometimes we could talk about the culture of the agency, but I think sometimes that motivation and it to me, I think it's that easy out. And John might be right. There's probably some agencies or maybe some things, some people. I know I show up. I'm a little bit of a wet blanket on the party because, oh, it's the boss or the boss's boss, and we got to have some rules, or we can't joke about certain stuff. But part of that is my responsiveness to the folks and say, hey, it's their party and they need to let their hair down. So I'm gonna come make my appearance and hang out. But what would you say to those people who say, I can't go to this event because somebody's going to say that it's preferential treatment?
I think that's going to come down to like what I mentioned earlier was it's always going to depend. And it's going to depend on the people that you're responsible for. So if you're going to have to know your people, you're going to have to know, are these the people that I can show up at this, shift gathering, whether this is something that is shift coordinated or maybe just a group of people that you work with have coordinated that I can show up and I'm not going to, be a damper on the festivities, or is this something that I need to show up to show face and, just kind of show my appreciation and mingle with the crowd. And then, respectfully, yeah, I'm gonna leave you guys to it and
What
take it to
about
the house.
though, you have, I'm not going to use the word, you have a group of people that have a party, they invite you out of your being the good person that you are, you decide to show up, but there's other people that wasn't invited. Do you not think you'll be associated with, now you are part of that clique? You're now a part of that group of people, and you in turn are now alienating these other folks. There's a bias in there because you, on no fault of your own, did not know that some people were not invited because they're not friends or they're not part of that particular network. And here you are. And I think for that reason, and if I remember my Blue Jackets manual history well from the Navy, that's a reason for having absolute separation between officers and the boots on the ground type mentality. So it's so that you have that. I mean, it's divisive on purpose. And so those would be things that I'd be worried about, is like, maybe I'm coming to show support, not realizing that me showing support to this group actually just supported the divisiveness of another group that were not invited or not felt welcome to come to something like that. I don't know. I think that's worth a consideration.
So I think it depends on like the function. So if this is a shift get together for a Thanksgiving party, right? That's going to be that one specific shift. Or if this is going to be, yeah, this is going to be ABC EMS agency Thanksgiving get together, and there were some people that were left out of it. Well, I like to see that as an agency that we do something that's inclusive of all of our individuals. We don't do a Thanksgiving thing, but we do a Christmas thing where we all get together and break bread. Everybody's invited to it. So then there's at least that opportunity for inclusiveness, but I'm also showing the people that have put in the effort to put something together that I'm supporting them in, the
Hashtag help Mark find his word.
hashtag help Mark find his word.
Hashtag can
Look,
Mark pass the stroke test?
I
Act
think
fast.
you said two things though, inclusive but Christmas party. And to say Christmas party would be non-inclusive for everyone.
That's correct. But it goes back to knowing your people. Or is your shift, if you're doing a shift thing, or if you're even doing an agency thing, is that a thing that everybody does? Or is this, something that we might need to do a holiday party for?
Right.
Right.
And you said know your people. How do I know?
So,
How do I find that out without asking inappropriate questions?
so I'm gonna go back on.
I think
I'm
it's
gonna go back
inappropriate.
when I'm gonna go back when I was on shift. So back when I was on shift,
25
shut up,
meals ago,
shut up,
Luke
y'all.
Skywalker was born.
So we
Delivered on.
had someone who was Jehovah's Witness on our shift,
Oh,
but we did not. We still celebrated a holiday time. They actually brought food with us and had food with us. Did not participate it being Christmas, but as a gathering meal. And this was I'm gonna use this one at work because we didn't go, but I did associate with that person sometimes outside of work as well. But
Knocking on
at
people's doors.
no, at work, Christmas didn't celebrate birthdays, didn't celebrate those holidays. But if we did something around one of those holidays, we always included them as well, even though we knew they didn't believe in that. We still said, "Hey, as a supervisor went, hey, I know this is your religion. I know that you don't celebrate this, but we want you to come be a part of us as well." And instead of excluding that individual, trying to add that individual with us to come with us, and our whole shift did that. So, I think knowing your audience, but trying to be respectful for all the individuals as well. And I think sometimes and I'm going to use a wedding or a kid's birthday party, what happens if you have the individuals that you have known for such long time, and now you're an officer role? Do you just kick those people to the curb and say, "Oh, sorry, you can't come to my kid's birthday party anymore. Sorry, you can't come to my whatever. We've done this for all these years. You can't do that anymore."
So who meets those people, Walter? I know you're personal, and you said it at the beginning of this episode. You said smaller agencies probably have a tighter knit
Right.
community, but I would also say that FTOs, assistant supervisors, and supervisors know their people better, I would say, than most chiefs or assistant chiefs that
Right.
don't have that person to person thing. So as a chief, I wouldn't know that. As an assistant chief, maybe I don't.
Right.
Or maybe I came up through A shift. I know A shift people well, but I don't know the others, as well. So that's what I was saying when I said you're talking about these different levels to get to know them. As a chief, I don't know that I could ask the question, what religion are you? Are you offended by that? Because I wouldn't know the personal
I think
level.
I think if you're respectful about it,
Mhm.
I think if you're genuinely inquisitive and you're respectful, I touch on one of the things of all the death notification piece and preparing for that presentation, talking with a bunch of different folks, different ministers, whether they were Episcopal priest, Roman Catholic, Baptist, or Presbyterian, and then some of my friends of other denominations, or doing some Google searches, some other things. But one of the common denominators, I remember one person saying that yeah, I celebrate the death of my father as somebody who is observantly Jewish differently than you do as somebody who is not observantly Roman Catholic. But the most important thing to me is, when my father died, friends of many faiths reached out to me and they said, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'll keep your family in my prayers. And they said that genuine care and concern. And so I think that same way, taking that and pivoting it, looking through a different lens and looking through that and saying, hey, we'd love to have, hey, we're doing it as a Christmas. Do you celebrate Christmas? I don't know. I'd like to get to know you and your family a little bit.
Weirdo.
Some people will be all about it. Some people not.
400 employees. You're not gonna be able to do that.
You're not gonna be able to do that. But I will go. I'm going to use a paramedic student at this point in time. I meet with all the paramedic students before they graduate, and do their, final affective domain evaluation. And one of those questions that I get all of them on is cultural differences. And one of the statements in there says, um, something about learning others' cultures and the difference in between like them and another person. And I get all of them and they go, oh yeah, I'm good with culture. And I said, okay, here, let me read this statement to you again. Do you seek out cultures? Don't know that I seek out cultures, but if I have something, I do that. And I said, and I bring up the nursing aspect of it. Nursing is very holistic with all of those cultures where EMS is not. So I say, hey, do you do that? And this is the culture thing we're talking about is, Jewish, Jehovah Witness, Pentecostal, Baptist, uh,
Atheist,
atheist, all these things that, I say, I can't give myself acceptable or excellent in that because I don't do that. Now if I'm around that individual, I do, but as a director, I think it's hard to be able to do that. But this is what I'm going to say to that is, and Terry's a director here, if Terry's got 150 employees and the brand new person says, hey chief, I'm getting married next week, I want you to come, here's an invitation. What do I'm new to the area. I don't have a lot of people that I know here. You hired me. I kind of know you. I've seen you for the last 2 weeks in orientation. Hey, I'm getting married next week. Would you come?
Yeah, I think
What
you
do you
go
do?
because that you're getting invited personally
Right.
Right.
by that person. And if someone was to ask me why I didn't come, I said, well, you didn't invite me, but I have to also be prepared to explain, I think. And I guess
But the other 149 people didn't get invited.
well, I mean, I can't help who they're friends with, but I can justify the reason I said I would go or the reason why I say I would not go to something else. And I think that's what I was saying is, as a chief, maybe you do have to take that initiative to be able to explain those things. And Terry, I'll let you speak because you probably have been in that situation.
Uh, I mean, I just go back to what I said earlier. If I'm invited, I'm going, and if I'm not, well, hey, how come you didn't? Oh, I didn't know about it, man. I'd
Right.
love to be there, but I want to redirect because I had a mental image that anybody who's been in class or had a conversation with Walter, I think the way that you address it, because I could hear Walter having that conversation. Oh, you're having a Muslim wedding. I've never been to one of those. What should I expect? I want to be respectful to you. I don't know. That's my redirect. But to
Oh,
answer your
okay.
question, to answer your question, I think you just to me it's just it's ingrained, and I think that's the difficult part, to teach something that to me is just being kind and being polite to people. Hey, I'd
And
love to come to this event, or hey, I'm unable to because I have this other family event.
right.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And then whether it's buying something off of the registry, and it doesn't have to be the most expensive thing. It doesn't have to be the cheapest thing, but the thought of something and the note with it, because I remember a couple of years ago going to a wedding for one of our paramedics, and bought a present that I knew off of the registry was something that his wife had wanted. It was, on in her list, and bought something off of his list, and said, to him, do something nice with your wife for this, and in hers, do something nice with your husband, for this, and think of our family as your family grows with it.
And
So
I think,
what I'm
go ahead.
no, so what I'm hearing is it has a lot to do with probably the culture and the makeup of your agency or your shift or whatever the specific function is, whether this is a get together or a wedding or what have you. And this is also a kind of a risk versus benefit analysis that we look at,
I think so.
from that perspective that we're in, from that role that we're in. And I would have to say, as an officer of an organization, I would probably more oftentimes than not err on the side of caution and say, if I've been invited, go. Or if this is a thing that has to do with a group within our EMS agency, by all means, go. That now the limitations of what goes on whenever you get there, what's appropriate time to leave, and all the other stuff, we can probably do, a whole nother 30 minutes just on that discussion. But I think it's better to go than not to go, in more oftentimes than not.
Come to my church. We have snakes.
Well, I
Hey,
think, I think,
There's a whole story about that, but I don't
Right.
know.
I
I think
think,
Mrs. Sheehy gets upset when I talk about visiting her church.
I'm sure.
Oh,
I think that you have to think about, and Terry's brought it up a few minutes, you have to be kind. I think you have to be kind, you have to be honest, you have to think about, you have to know the limitations, you have to know what you can and what you can't do, and don't, you know, that line can be drawn and be moved. And so I think you have to think about that, and just, you got to do what's right for you, and you've got to think about your agency along with that. And
I, so we hear we people, I guess they listen to us and for some insight. And you're saying, Walter, you got to know what you do and stuff. Maybe they don't know. So let's be a little bit explicit. What this defines some of those things. The thought process is, if you're an officer, I've heard Terry say it. So I think that if we had to level it out, I'd say it's probably a good idea, if you're an officer in your agency, not to drink alcohol with people if alcohol is available at the party. Is that what you're saying? Or are you saying that there's a certain level of which you do that? Are you saying that you shouldn't use profanity? Are you saying that you shouldn't dance if there's dances there? Are you saying that I mean, you see what I'm saying? I think you have to.
I think as the four of us trying to give those specific rules, I think it's very hard to be able to do that.
or universal fit. Yeah.
Correct. I
There-
think it's very hard
there's
to do
no-
that. Right.
There's no absolute rules. There's 50 shades of gray, and you have to figure out.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
But
Oh, sorry.
in figuring it out costs you your job. But no, and you say there's no absolute rules,
And so that's why
I say there is.
and
There's
so
a
I would
range.
there is, and that's where I would say the people that, if you want to play it safe, hey, they're hiring down the street at Ace Hardware. You want that super super safe. I don't know. I mean, I guess you got some danger. Somebody walking in the store with the LP tank asking you to charge it, and I think people hide behind that safety, and the job has risks, and you're trading one set of risks when you come off of that truck and you go into the office as that first level supervisor, that mid level, that senior level supervisor. And so I think you do have to take some risks. But just like on that motor vehicle accident, we are placing our ambulance to block traffic, or our emergency vehicle to block traffic. We're following our Tim's guidelines. I've got my reflective stuff. I'm paying attention to where traffic is. I'm doing a whole bunch of things. If I'm with the fire service, I'm doing cones, or maybe I got some signs. I got a whole bunch of things. I think you have to do the same thing with this, because you can play it safe and you can sit on your couch at home and say, well, I didn't go to this event, but one of the things that I would say, and this is a statement that I've made in officer classes, is it's like any number of other things in life. Do you just go there when you have the hard time? Whether that's going to church, whether that's going to marriage counseling or therapy or whatever it is, hey, we got to spend some time on that communication, at that marriage counseling, on them good days, and not just on those bad days. And so I think the same thing with our employees. We have to celebrate those good things with them. We have to be aware of the risks, mitigate them, because hey, I'm not going to drink at this party, but hey, we got a champagne toast. I'm gonna have a champagne toast. I just have to be smart about it, because we can go wrong there. No, I'm not doing that champagne toast with you. I don't know, you're going to disrespect me. I invited you to this. So I think you just have to play it smart. And when somebody says, "Hey, Chief, how come you're not having a?" Hey, you know what? I'm the boss. I appreciate y'all, coming out here, but I'm getting ready to head out in a couple minutes. And if you are upfront, if you are transparent with that, people are going to respect you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the thing they need to hear then, is like, if in these gray areas, what does one say versus having to go out there and do and then getting themselves in trouble or whatnot. I think it's important for us to to be good mentors and say, what we do in these situations. I don't know that anybody ever taught me that. I don't know if anybody taught you guys that. We somehow along the way, we either did, made mistakes and learned from them, or we didn't do them, or we saw them made, and no one's sitting there scribbling down the etiquette book of EMS officer, right? So that's why I say maybe I like the words transparency. Like, I think Walter's probably got the best response to that, and that is, hey, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk to you ahead of time, and I'm going to learn the person and say, hey, what do I do at a thing? Almost like, I can relate to sports. If I've never been bowling before, I'm certainly not going to walk into a bowling alley unprepared. I'm probably going to do some research on bowling, and find out a little bit about it before I go out there and do it. So I think that may be the thing people don't do, and that is learn a little bit, not just culturally, but what are y'all going to be doing at this party? What usually happens? And when you start hearing things like, well, there's a lot of moonshine and a slip and slide, that doesn't sound like I need to be there. Right? No, is that just
I
my
did
house?
not
Okay.
get that invite. I did not get that invite.
I
Missed
can't
out.
see where that goes. Right.
Oh, okay.
This is why Greensboro no longer has.
This is why Greensboro's in the West. The moonshine.
Somebody out there is like, what a great idea. What a
The
great
next
idea.
wedding anybody's invited to, there'll be moonshine
And a slip and slide.
and a slip and slide.
In Mark's background, I feel like that's
Well, the slip
Somebody-
and slide would go up above that.
Is somebody getting married on here that I'm not
Land right there.
familiar with? Maybe I need to think about going to that wedding.
Yeah, you talking about Willis?
What?